How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and it looks like the CMA situation hasn't been resolved. Microsoft hasn't yet closed the deal, and it looks like Monday, well, all eyes are on Monday now as the CMC takes place and the CMA and Microsoft get their thoughts in front of the tribunal, because the tribunal kind of basically got a bit miffed because they worked overboard, bent over backwards to try and get this case basically fast-tracked, and then for both of them to kind of request a stay. The CAT Tribunal wants an update on what is going on and to basically see where both parties are at. Now, Microsoft is still expected to close on Monday, but the analysts are saying that Microsoft is unlikely to close over the CMA for some reason, but that is where we're at right now. Now, we do have a couple of tweets that I'm going to go through because I think it kind of wraps things up really nicely. But first of all, I want to go through one that actually isn't CMA related, but it's very, very salt related. So as you can see from here, this dude over here, short term versus long term. And like I said, this is nothing to do with the CMA, but essentially what he's saying here is that in the long term, Sony would be better off by banning all Activision Blizzard games off PlayStation, from Call of Duty to Diablo to Minecraft from Microsoft. And he believes that by banning all Activision Blizzard games, this would be the best deal for Sony and it would allow them to succeed. I think what he doesn't quite understand is that by doing this, he's pretty much sentencing Sony's PlayStation to death. They can't live on their first-party IP alone. They need third-party IP. And Activision Blizzard games sell way too much on PlayStation to be excluded. Sony can't live without them. Microsoft can't live without them. And Microsoft pretty much has no incentive to make them exclusive on Xbox, so I don't know what this dude is on about. Anyway, getting back to the CMA. I just thought I'd put that in there as a little light starter. But as you can see here, now according to The Verge, Tom Warren, Microsoft will not close deal over UK CMA regulator next week. It wouldn't look good for future acquisitions. This is kind of true, but I mean, there's a fine line between not looking good for future acquisitions and then the opposition taking the actual royal piss, which is pretty much where the CMA is right now. Microsoft could close the deal with CMA end of July. Now that they have won the FTC, Activision could come to an agreement to go beyond the deadline. Now, as we know, Bobby Kotick has repeatedly said that he is not prepared to go past the 18th of July. If it does, he will take the $3 billion and walk away, regardless of what the FTC has done. That has been a stance for a little while now. So that's going to be interesting, and why people are going thinking that Bobby Kotick is bluffing. Who knows? This is what Tom Warren said. The FT is reporting that Microsoft and Activision could extend their merger agreement. They don't have to have a formal agreement in place though. I still firmly believe Microsoft won't close over the UK, so we might be looking at a small delay at closing. We have this. The merger agreement between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard is due to expire on July 18th, which would allow either company to walk away from the deal and triggering a $3 billion break fee, which is basically what Bobby Kotick is waiting for, because he has said repeatedly that if it goes past the July 18th date, he's going to walk away. However, after this week's legal victory in the US, courts and a potential lifeline in the UK, people close to the company say that they are likely to agree an extension to the deal early next week. Things are moving quite quickly, said one person close to the negotiations. Now, you've got a bunch of people here arguing about this, but this one over here is the interesting one, but we've actually got it up there as well in here, so I'll come back to that in a bit. But Florian says, let's see if the CMA allows deal closing during an ongoing investigation. So what does he mean by this? So currently the deal, the issue that's holding the CMA from approving the deal is cloud. Now, the divestiture that was mentioned previously is regarding the xCloud platform and what it will be called is something completely different. It could be UK Communications Cloud, UK Cloud, whatever it's going to be called. It will no longer have the synonym belonging to Xbox or Microsoft. It will be its own independent company, divested completely from Microsoft. And at that point, the actual deal no longer has any impeding blocks to actually prevent it from going through. Now, the idea here is that while that divestiture is going on, Microsoft, in theory, pending the CMA plays ball, can close the deal with the CMA's blessing. That means that xCloud for Microsoft will eventually, just for the UK only, not for the rest of the world. The rest of the world is fine to use cloud as it is. For the UK, they may have to pay extra because this is better for the players apparently. But in the meantime, nothing will change for the consumer. Now, it's really confusing how potentially having to pay additionally only in the UK for cloud is a better deal for consumers when they're getting it for free as a bolt-on with Game Pass Ultimate. I actually don't understand this at all from the CMA. It literally makes no sense to me at all. If someone that's watching this video can make any sense of that, please explain it in the comment section, and I will go through the comments and I will try to find it and read it. But seriously, like, that makes no sense to me. If not, then we must be patient, but can be super optimistic nonetheless. There's no risk in the US anymore. Even a purely hypothetical risk would be several months out. What are they talking about here? Well, you guessed it. If the FTC want, they can appeal again. Yes, you heard me right. But this time it wouldn't be until sometime in September to December before their appeal would be heard. So it is like pretty much at the end of the year, and that would have no bearing or impact on the case being closed by Microsoft. All this will actually do eventually is, maybe if the FTC do win, is divest Activision from Microsoft, just like Microsoft are doing with the cloud to satisfy the CMA. But in terms of the deal going through, it will have zero impact. Over here, we've got Monday is going to be interesting if they manage to get a derogation to the interim order. I guess they wouldn't need to extend. And so what does he mean by this? And there's a statement here, but there are options available according to Tom Smith, a competition lawyer at Gerardin Partners, who is a ex-CMA legal director, so he knows what he's talking about. It's all quite debatable, but I believe the most likely route to allowing the deal to close by Tuesday is for the CMA to issue a derogation from its interim order, said Smith, a competition lawyer at blah 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 blah, referring to the former notice the deal's watchdog issued in May, ordering the companies to remain separate pending a final decision. So again, what this is saying here is exactly what I've been talking about. Basically, the cloud service of Microsoft will be divested and it will be a separate part to Microsoft. And while this investigation is going, xCloud will be called, let's just say for all arguments case, just for this video, UK Communications Cloud. And okay, that the acronym is okay. I was just making sure that the acronym didn't say something silly. So UK Communications Cloud, and for Microsoft's xCloud, it will be kind of, I don't know if it will still be with Game Pass Ultimate or if it will be removed from Game Pass Ultimate and it will be eventually a separate entity. But for the time being, it will probably still continue, but without the Activision Blizzard games on there. Now, what would happen from there is that while this investigation is ongoing, the CMA would pass its blessing and allow the deal to close. Pending a final decision, if the final decision comes out that xCloud can remain within Microsoft's control and part of Game Pass Ultimate, then xCloud will be returned in its normal state and normal service will be resumed. In the event that that is not the case and they want the cloud service in the UK only to be separated from Microsoft's Game Pass Ultimate, then at that point it will basically no longer be within Game Pass Ultimate. I'm guessing it will be stripped away and it will be its own cloud service called UK Communications Cloud. And that's basically what he's saying here. They could allow the deal to close, but require Activision Blizzard business to be held separate pending the final order. Again, this is instead of having the cloud being separate, they could want the whole Activision Blizzard to be divested until this investigation is over, but the deal can close nonetheless. The CMA would look reasonable while preserving their position. Again, what he's saying here is the CMA would basically show that they've made Microsoft bend the knee. They got what they wanted. They can show that they're bigger than Microsoft and they can't be bullied around, while basically caving in and giving Microsoft what they want. So both sides look, amenable. Spokesman for Microsoft and Activision declined to comment. The CMA didn't immediately respond to a request for the comment or process. So that's where we're at with that. So it's going to be very, very touch and go with how this goes on Monday, but I think it can close on Monday. Florian says to Yellow 13 Fallout fans comment here, correct, the CMA could allow closing the deal while the investigation is ongoing. And if you ask me, that is the best course of action for the CMA to do. It's basically saying, look, we have problems with this. We're going to let you close, but it's going to close on our terms and on our rules. And therefore, if you want this to happen, it has to be on what we say. That way, the CMA isn't showing any weakness like the FTC got humiliated with, while also being reasonable to show that, they are willing to communicate and liaise with businesses to try and get something done, rather than the UK is closed for business, even if subject to some requirements, hold separate, basically what I said. But only because they could allow it doesn't mean they will do it. Let's see. And that is the key here. The CMA could be completely and utterly unreasonable and completely, foolish, to the point where they will turn around and say that they're not prepared to do this. But in my opinion, the fact that they both requested a stay, I reckon they've been working in the background over the weekend to try and come up with a solution for this. Their lawyers have been going back and forth. I think the CMA, unlike anyone in the UK actually, to work over the weekend, because no one liked to work over the weekend, I can attest to that, probably have been communicating and having talks with Microsoft to find that solution on what works best. At the end of the day, Microsoft could have taken this to the CAT tribunal and they would have won. Without a shadow of doubt, they would have had the decision overturned and the CMA would have been made to look stupid, just like the FTC. But clearly, they know something. Microsoft has agreed something with the CMA. They have come to some kind of bargaining where they don't want to do that and push it out any further than it needs to be. So I do think that everything kind of points towards a Monday closure. But then again, as we know with the CMA, they are, shadier than a slithering snake. So we'll see how that turns out. Over here, we have Microsoft will not let the CMA cause them to extend this deal. Renegotiating a deal of this size one day before a deadline is no simple task and could open the door to a host of issues. It'll close. Florian says, I very much hope they will close the deal on Monday or Tuesday rather than extend the deal. Don't forget the deal, it expires on Wednesday. But those who say they will await the end of the reopened CMA investigation could be right. The recent announcement of a joint motion to stay the appeal suggests no closing over. So it does seem like because they both agreed to this, they're not going to close over the CMA, but I don't think it's going to come to that, because I think that they've already came to an agreement and right now they're just working out the legalities of the divestiture to push it over the line, get that in writing, get it all noted out, get it all witness signed to the point where, There is no gaps, there is no loopholes, there is no way for this to be misinterpreted. All the legal requirements are in place. So if Microsoft do decide to make a mistake, and if Microsoft do decide to, ignore the CMA's ruling and then do what they want with cloud, the CMA will have a lot of power to fine Microsoft. Now, I know a lot of people are saying that they should just close over it and just walk out of the UK. That is all well and good. But if they do that, the CMA will be watching Microsoft like a hawk for a single mistake. And the moment they do, they'll be in a position where they can fine Microsoft 10% of their global total revenue. That is a lot of money. A lot of money. So Microsoft ain't stupid. They're not prepared to go down that route, right? That's a lot of money. Do you think the FTC dare to file an appeal again? This is what I was saying earlier, where the FTC technically can. I discussed it in my Twitter space today. There is a filing deadline for the FTC on August the 9th, opening brief on appeal, which I guess they will ask to extend. They probably would have asked for that anyway, and no risk of a new decision by the appeals court until late 2023, which basically means that there is no way that this can actually cause any harm to the actual deal. Even if they actually did try it, they won't be heard until late 2023. As far as this is concerned, once the CMA situation is resolved, the deal is done. Now his over here is just basically summing up everything that's actually happened over the course of this, and I think this is a really nice way to close this video. There's less anxiety now in the gamer community, but tremendous impatience about the UK situation because people have had enough of the CMA. I, as someone from the UK, have had enough of the CMA. Now, don't get me wrong, the CMA actually do really good work. Like, for example, right now they're in battle with Google and Apple to reduce that 30% fee that they're charging. And if they do, that'll be really good for developers and publishers, but it'll also be good for consumers because the prices in theory should go down unless corporate greed kicks in. And if it does, then the CMA will be there again to tackle that problem. But what it means is once that 30% goes down and developers have less to pay, then the prices of those microtransactions, in-game transactions, or whatever it is you're buying on the App Store or the Google Play Store should in theory go down by the percentage of that 30%. So if the developers no longer have to pay 30% as a fee to Apple and have to pay 15%, that saving in theory, or part of that saving, should be passed on to the consumer. And that is what they're fighting for at the moment, and I think that's a very, very good thing. Just to give you a rough idea of some of the good work that these regulators do, so they're not exactly just a waste of space. You will all remember that after the CMA's April 26 decision, most of the experts and clearly the stock market thought the deal was dead, as did Sony aligned deal critics. They posted pictures of Jim Ryan as a larger-than-life hero. They celebrated the CMA and the FTC. Some accounts were created or renamed in honor of CMA and or FTC. They were trolling many of you and me, claiming the deal was dead. They even ejected Florian from certain forums because they couldn't stand the fact that he spoke the truth. That's history. Please be patient now. Out of the two reported scenarios about Microsoft closing on Monday or extending the deal until they get things sorted out with the CMA, which one do you think is the most likely to happen? You might have answered this question before. I actually don't want to state percentages in today's Twitter space. I focus on the scenario of a delay about a month because that one requires more explanations. Not my preference and not a prediction, just a plausible scenario that had to be discussed. And what this essentially was is the fact that there's a lot of legal documents to go through, a lot of restructuring of the actual case to go through, because now they're no longer looking at it as an ABK deal, they're looking at it as a cloud, so that then needs to be restructured. So it won't take the 18 months it took now, but it could take like 3-4 weeks to actually get this sorted, investigated, filed up, written up, time wasted, with taxpayers' money wasted, and then they could finally come up with a conclusion. But overall, that is where we are at right now. And this whole trolling part has eventually resulted in this. If the 69 billion acquisition deal goes through, Sony could, but very likely won't, turn the tables and ban Microsoft's Call of Duty on PlayStation entirely. Do keep in mind that the #1 selling game on PlayStation after this deal goes through is a Microsoft product, Call of Duty. The #2 most selling product on their list, which is for the PS4, not the PS5, is a Microsoft product, Call of Duty. And the #3, making it the top 3 selling product for PlayStation, is Minecraft, a Microsoft product. So the top 3 best-selling games for Sony PlayStation in #1, 2, and 3, Call of Duty for PS5, Call of Duty for PS4, and then Minecraft, would all be Microsoft products, which means that they would be basically funding Microsoft incredibly well. PlayStation entirely forcing Microsoft to take no earnings and profit via PlayStation, and Microsoft would then question other Activision games on PlayStation 2, like Diablo. Short term, Sony would obviously lose COD and plays to Xbox and their third-party revenue, but long term would no longer be funding and marketing Microsoft's Call of Duty product and brand. The corporate giant that threatened to outspend Sony. Wow, he is still hung up on that. When it had nothing, it was completely out of context. Xbox's leaked long-term goal to outspend them to eventually kill Sony in console gaming. I mean, this dude is really coping. To stay consistent, Sony would then ideally also cut off Minecraft on PlayStation 2. Basically, what he's trying to do is shut down PlayStation entirely. Sure, not ideal for Minecraft gamers, but at least would no longer be helping their hostile competitor thrive by helping to platform and fund their significant third-party sales. I'll be honest with you, Chief, if you lose Call of Duty and Minecraft off PlayStation, you're probably going to lose about a third of your player base and they will switch to another platform. Considering there are like millions of players who only play one game, and that is Call of Duty. If you take that away from PlayStation, they are moving, and that's not a small amount of players, right? Let's be realistic. This dude is coping hard. Pretty harsh, and for some may seem backwards or illogical. Yeah, it is. But long-term, Sony and PlayStation survival in mind. No, you're literally going to send PlayStation to the ground. Literally, if this happens, Sony could potentially just be wiped out. I can't see them competing at all financially. That's crazy talk. But anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. At least it gives you a rough idea. The CMA's hearing is going to be on Monday at 2:30 p.m. Finally, it's in the UK, so I don't have to stay up until like God knows how long, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. listening to a hearing. This one I'll be listening to from 2:30, and then hopefully in the afternoon or late afternoon, early evening, I'll be able to push a video out with whatever happened in that hearing, so do look out for that as well. Hopefully you enjoyed my Halo video, and I've got my Last of Us video coming up after this one, so hopefully you'll enjoy that one. You'll check it out. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.